Hey, I'm Pete. I'm the Director of Design for 352. And today I'm going to talk to you about 4 keys to a feedback cycle. And as users engage with your website, they're going to be using desktop applications, tablets, and smartphones. And it's really important that you stay in tune with how they're engaging with you. And there's a really great case study by Google called The New Multi-Device World. And if you've read that case study, you'll know that users are always evolving in how they interact with you online. They'll start on a desktop and they'll finish a conversion on a smartphone, or they'll be engaging with you on while they're on the couch if they had a point of inspiration through something that was going on TV. And the key with this is that because they're always evolving, you need to have a good feedback cycle to understand how they want to engage with you and your product. So I'm going to talk to you about 4 keys to a feedback cycle so you can stay in tune with your customers. So the first part of the feedback cycle is going to be analytics. And with analytics, the key thing is that while it's foundational and while you might have been using it for a few years, that you pay attention to whether it's evolved with your product. And so what I mean by that is, as you've added landing pages or microsites, or maybe you've added a mobile application, or maybe an online support system, does your analytics span to all of those systems? Does it reach everywhere where you're engaging with your customers? And if it doesn't, it needs to. And once you have healthy data and once you're reaching all of your users or historically understanding them, you're going to be asking yourself questions like, well, why are they coming to my site? Where are they coming from geographically? That might be very important for you. What devices are they using to reach me? Maybe does the behaviors of the people on smartphone differ from someone on a tablet or a desktop? So you use analytics to understand everything about your customers historically. But another component of analytics, especially in a feedback cycle, is to inform the other parts of the cycle. So you'll use analytics to make better survey questions. If you see abandonment or an issue in the analytics, you can ask it in a question in a survey. So with surveys, they could be a link on your website, or it could be an email you send out to your customer base to request a quick survey. And with surveys, we want to keep them conversational and quick, and don't bombard your users so they're more likely to complete it and give you really good feedback. Now, one of the neat things about surveys is that, or one of the critical parts about surveys is that we want to measure attitudes and not behaviors. And the reason why we say that is because people are really bad at telling you how they did something. But they're pretty good about telling you what they like or what they don't like. And so with surveys, when you think about your questions and try to keep the questions streamlined, ask them questions about what features they'd like to see or what issues they're having with your product. Don't ask them how they would go about completing something. A newer part of surveys, and something that's actually very interesting, is that there's tools now from SurveyMonkey and USAMP that'll actually allow you to build new audiences. It'll allow you to actually reach customers, people that aren't your customers yet. And you could set up demographic information or geographic information, and you'll pay a price to these services, but you'll get really valuable feedback if you're trying to reach a new audience. And when you have your surveys and when you understand what new features or what issues you're having with your product, you're going to make changes, right? But the problem with that is, you're still sort of guessing a little bit. You can't always just nail it the first time. So a key thing to help with that is actually remote testing. And so with remote testing, it'll allow you in development to make your changes, whether it's content or functionality, and then you could actually put it in front of real people. And the same way that we did with surveys, where we could pick who we're putting it in front of, if you're using someone other than your audience, you could do that with remote testing as well. And if you've never seen a remote test, they're actually really, really interesting. You'll see the end user and you'll see the device, and you'll actually visually understand their frustrations or when they had a eureka moment. And so I really want to show you an example of a user test. And so we're going to pause right now. We're going to watch a quick video, and then we'll come back.
One thing I like to do is read all the reviews of a certain product. Looks like there's a lot of one-star reviews for this hard drive. I'd like to take a look at those specifically just the 1 stars. I'm clicking here to see, but nothing's happening. It looks like the only way to do this is to scroll down through the list and try to find them all, but that may take a while. Okay, I'm searching for a hard drive and I want to be able to filter by price. How can I filter by price here? So it looks like there's not a way that you can actually filter by price or sort by price range.
So I think you see how powerful those videos are. You know, we actually got to see the end user using the Amazon application. You get to hear any positive or negative sentiment to how something went, and they're very powerful. And you know, in this instance, he was using a mobile phone, but works just as well on a tablet and will work just as well on a desktop application. And with remote testing, it's not about pass or fail. You know, with surveys or with analytics, it's very pass-fail. It's, you know, did this work for you or did this not work for you? But with remote testing, you actually get to understand where their stumbling blocks might have been and what prevented them from succeeding, or maybe they misunderstand what you wrote and they just don't know how to articulate that. But because you're watching them, you get to see it and you get to say, oh, they missed it. It's right there. I can't understand why they missed it. And there's a lot of studies and statistics that say if you would just do remote testing with 5 users before you launch, you could eliminate up to 80% of post-launch issues. So remote testing is a very valuable resource to getting your product right before you push it public. Now, once you've pushed it public, the next component is actually understanding what works best for your end users. And so while we asked them questions about what functionality they like with surveys, and while we watched them use your site with remote testing, you know, it's not until we get a lot of mass market understanding that we can really optimize how your site works. You know, so what split testing allows us to do is it allows us to run 2 tests behind the scenes and judge whether copy or content or emphasis really impact the end user. So what that means is you can go into a system and you could say, you know what, I want to change the wording on this button. I want to go from join now to start now, or I want to change the color from blue to orange. And you get to see behind the scenes which one actually performs better. Your users will tell you just by walking through your process, though whichever works best, you'll find out. And so split testing and remote testing, they're not rocket science. You don't have to be an expert software developer to use them. And we have a blog post online that we'll link to that actually walks into more details about the tools that can help you at each stage of this. Now, the key to remember with a feedback cycle is that it is truly a cycle, whether your product is just in the idea phase, or whether you're currently in development, or maybe your product has been around for a few years. The feedback cycle applies to whatever stage you're at. So just hop on wherever you feel most comfortable, and then keep iterating and going through your product and making it better. I'm Pete Bernardo. I hope this helped you. Feedback cycles.